you struggle to find a friendly face, when you're fighting against the tide, turn to me and put your hand in mine. I'm by your side when you're way ahead.
Hello, I'm Hilary Robertson. Welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World.
No one to be your guide. Lean on me, I will always be right here. I'm by your side.
For this episode, I'm joined by composer and pianist Ross Lorraine. His album Heart of Mine is produced by the remarkable singer Claire Martin. And it includes Claire herself on vocals, but also Leanne Carroll, Gwyneth Herbert, Ian Shaw, Luca Manning and Sarah Coleman. The launch of this album was a beautiful event, and it gave me the chance to hear Claire herself as well as Ian Shaw and Luca Manning singing live. I've heard their recordings before, but never heard them live. Incredible. And what you're listening to now is Ian and Claire with I'm By Your Side. I'm looking forward to this discussion with Ross, and I hope you enjoy listening. Welcome to Harmonious World, Ross Lorraine. This is a real pleasure because I love Heart of Mine.
Oh, thank you very much.
You must be very proud of it as an album.
Yes, it does feel a bit like a sort of pinnacle of what I've been trying to do for the last few years. And of course it is a sense of achievement, but particularly with the people that I have involved, I just feel really proud to have been sort of collaborating with them. They're all my musical heroes, really. So, yeah, it couldn't have been better, really.
Well, yes, I think you've got the finest singers in the UK on this album.
I think so too, yes. I mean, I was just so pleased when they all said yes.
Yes, and they're all so different, aren't they?
Yes, I think that's what I like about it. It's showing different aspects of what I do as a songwriter. You know, each person brings something different, and some of them, you know, really took me by surprise a bit. Maybe didn't do them quite the way that I'd imagined, but in a good way. Like Gwyneth Herbert, I think, sort of took a different direction from the way that I imagined the songs that I wrote that she sang. And other people did them, and I thought, gosh, how did you know that's how I heard it, you know, which is also nice. So, yeah.
Yes, and what I found interesting at the launch event at Ronnie's was that the songs that Claire had to sing because the other female vocalist couldn't be there, she did in her own way, but still giving something
of the spirit of them. Yes, just kind of channeling Leanne. That was amazing.
Yes.
I just find it so interesting how people can bring something of themselves, and of course the players as well, but it is very much a collaborative thing. You know, it's not like the more classical way of composing that I was brought up with or kind of evolved through, where you're basically telling people what to do and then their job is to deliver it. I mean, I suppose that's never strictly the case anyway, even in classical or contemporary classical composition. But I love the freedom in jazz to you know, for everyone to bring an element of their own personality, and of course to interact you know, in the process of recording.
Yes, and of course Claire Martin not only performed, but she was producer of this as well.
Yeah, which she was co-producing with me and Chris Traves, who was also wonderful. She and Chris have a production company together called Soup to Nuts, and they work very well together, and I found them very easy, and it was a great pleasure to work with them, actually. Very natural, very easy, you know. And it's great when you're working with someone like that, who obviously, you know, kind of hugely respect Claire and Chris as well. Chris does some great arrangements. Actually, he's a great trombone player, And he came in one morning with a wonderful kind of 5-part trombone arrangement of the song that Claire does, actually, Body Language. Sorry, name of the game. Just kind of offered it up as a possible, and
wow.
Of course we immediately said yes.
Yes, yeah. And there is an attention to detail on this album, which I love.
Yes, I think that's true. There's a sort of perfectionism for people working at that level, I think, which I really respect. I always love working with people like that who really go the extra mile and want to get it absolutely right. It's a great learning experience to be working with people like that.
Yeah. And of course, you've got a great, you mentioned briefly the band. So Mike Walker, Rob Barron, Lawrence Cottle and Elliot Henshaw.
Yes.
Bring it all together.
I mean, Mike Walker has always been a huge hero of mine. I love his playing. And he puts he puts a lot of work into it. He really takes it seriously and, studied the scores and thought about what he wanted to do. And he brought a lot to it. And I think all of them have that ability to play, they could all play loads of notes if they wanted to, but they're picking the right notes. You know what I mean? It's that style of playing, which I really love.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
Very, very tasteful. Yeah.
Yes, and it was nice at the live event that they just kind of sat back and let the vocalists do their thing, but then they were, they were definitely as a whole sort of really, really giving a strong foundation.
Definitely, yes. It's leaving space, isn't it? That's what those players are so good at. Just creating the right setting, because it's not about showing how good they are. It's about making the song work as a whole. And they're all great at sort of getting the sense of the groove, which is, such a crucial thing. I mean, it was very impressive to hear them live. Of course, in the studio, you can do retakes and so on, but just to hear them producing that live is also very impressive.
Yeah. So talk to me about the songwriting process. When were these songs written?
I suppose over the course of about 4 years or something like that. I think the first one was Name of the Game, and that might have been maybe more like sort of 5 or 6 years ago. I was in Sligo at the jazz festival there. That's where I met Mike Walker, actually. And that was the first time I had sort of one of my songs kind of performed just in a fairly informal setting. And I tried a little bit of singing them myself. I was collaborating with a singer-songwriter called Melissa James, so that was more a question of me providing the harmonies and the kind of musical arrangements a little bit, but they were more her songs, which I was kind of having an input into. But through that experience, I think I started to think, well, what happens if I try writing the lyrics? And then I just more and more kind of got into writing my own songs, and now that's kind of become the focus of what I do, I suppose. Yeah,
very good. And when was the recording done?
It was done in 2 batches, sort of last autumn and early this year, just over kind of 2 batches of 3 days each. So it's very quick. Everyone came in really well prepared and super easy to work with them, really. So again, just very impressive and very enjoyable. The whole process was very relaxed, and we had a good time.
Yeah, it does sound like that. It does. It sounds like it's everyone kind of does their thing, but when it comes together, it's it relaxed, I think, and it just works. Yes,
maybe that was the influence of the studio dog. Chris has this lovely little dog who makes everyone feel relaxed in the studio by looking up with her big eyes and making everyone feel warm and cuddly.
Oh, very good.
And then we'd all sort of go down to the Greasy Spoon Cafe together, and it was a lovely experience.
Yeah, good. But can you talk to me about your background, because you're much more of a sort of contemporary classical composer, in
Yeah.
your?
Yes, I suppose I've been through lots of different styles and genres. I mean, I've always had jazz around as something that's been there in my background as a kid. You know, I would kind of pick out boogie woogie bass lines and things that when people came around, you know, kind of pick up ideas. My mother was an actress, and there were a lot of musical people around and singers and that kind of thing. And my two sisters sang, so you know, we'd be making up harmonies to things, and you know, so there's just lots of different kinds of music around all the time. And then I became, you know, more seriously a contemporary classical composer. Studied it at university, and you know, did a PhD and worked with Harrison Birtwistle. I think you probably know about these people, but not everyone seems to know, you know, these kind of people. But yeah, very impressive composer and a lovely person, actually. Died recently. But yeah, I sort of worked with him a lot and became his assistant and then his editor at Universal Edition. So I was heavily into sort of new music, kind of experimental. I mean, also a little bit free improvising, that kind of thing, and working with graphic scores and, you know, so lots of different kinds of music. But I think improvising has always been an element of what I've been interested in. I was working with some very good sort of top class players. Andrew Sparling, Anton Lukashevich, Ian Pace, people like that. I don't know if you know these people at all, but they're very, you know, top class players who can sight read absolutely anything, but also improvise. And yeah, I've always liked working with players like that. And people like Roland Sutherland. I don't know if you know him, the flute player.
Yes.
So yeah, I've always been enjoyed working with people who have the skill to play, you know, more or less anything, but can also improvise and contribute in a sort of composerly way, I suppose.
Yes, it's interesting because when I started this podcast, in my head, I was like, well, I'm going to talk to people from, you know, all genres and none. But it's amazing how frequently I'm talking to people and there's crossover.
Yes.
It's almost like that whole contemporary classical thing can't get away from the influence of jazz, and ditto, really.
Well, I think it's less segregated now than it used to be. I think when I was at university, I was at Cambridge, and I was studying with Hugh Wood. I was more or less told, you know, because I said, oh yeah, I'm interested in jazz and that sort of thing. And he more or less said, oh, well, just forget about that. You know, that's not what you're doing here. And which I thought was a bit cheeky, because later I heard his piano concerto. This middle movement is based on Sweet Lorraine, you know, the jazz
yeah.
I thought, well, you know, it's not kind of doing what he preaches exactly, but but the general attitude was, you know, that you either did jazz or you did classical music. But I think now everything's much more eclectic, and thank God, it's all, you know, more of an interesting mix. And of course, everything crosses over. You can't stop things bumping into other things. Yeah.
No, and I think we're all the better for it. Or music is all the better for it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because I also love, you know, singer-songwriters. I was kind of, I suppose my musical influences when I was a teenager were sort of James Taylor and you know, singer-songwriters like that, Joni Mitchell, which seems a million miles away from, you know, high new complexity kind of composition. But I just think good music is good music, you know, and I just follow my you know, interests and tastes and see where they end up. And I think, you know, what I'm doing now, there's probably elements of everything I've been interested in and loved before, but yeah. I can't really unravel it myself.
No, well, and why should you? The title of this podcast, Harmonious World, comes from a Quincy Jones quote where he said, well, imagine what a harmonious world it would be if we all shared a little of what we're good at. And I like the other famous Quincy Jones quote, which is, the only type of music I don't like is bad music. No,
I completely agree with that. It's you know, life would be so boring if you just stuck to, you know, and defended what you liked. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So what's on the horizon next for you?
Well, a couple of people have said, why didn't I do a kind of songbook of these songs? And maybe I'll do some new ones in there as well, because I've already got probably an album's worth of new songs. So, I could do another album in the same vein, but I think it would be useful because I'd really want singers to sing them, So I think I'll put together a songbook, maybe, use some of the design from the album and make it a nice book of the scores of the songs.
Yeah, lovely.
Because singers are often, a lot of singers recently have been listening to these and saying that they'd like to sing them. But of course, if you've got a nice book that's already there, then it makes it more inviting somehow, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's probably what I'll be doing over the next few months, and then thinking about where to go next. But it's hard, when as you say, these are kind of like some of the top singers around. It's kind of like, where do I go from here? I could just, do the same thing again, I suppose. But it's always nice to explore something new.
Yeah. And what I found particularly interesting about this is some of the tracks feel like they're cover versions. They feel like they must be songs I've already heard somebody else do.
A lot of people say that. Yeah, I'm happy to take it as a compliment rather.
You please do. Yeah, no. It's not that they sound derivative.
No,
I don't mean that at all.
No, but a lot of people have said that. They've said surely that's a classic, or a standard or something. And I think that's a sign of. Hopefully, it's a sign that I've kind of absorbed good songwriting from other people, and just I think what slightly gives me an edge is that I really do, from my training, I really do understand harmony. And I think a lot of songwriters, they've got maybe great lyrics and maybe come up with a great tune, but the idea that harmony is something that can really convey the feeling or give an edge or even go against the words, or you know what I mean, they can actually lead the emotion. And harmony is something that it isn't just a random collection of chords. Basically, it isn't. I think when people start out, they find chords that they like and they kind of stick them in. But the idea of really harmony leading you through the song is something that not many songwriters do, I don't think. So I do think that without blowing my own trumpet, I think that is something I'm good at.
Definitely, and I think that actually brings me to one of my favorite tracks on the album, which is I'm By Your Side, which is Ian Shaw and Claire Martin together. And that the interaction between their voices is really, I mean, it was extraordinary when I heard it live, but I've been listening more and more. Yeah.
Well, it's nice because it has that personal touch, because of course they've worked so much together and they have a great friendship. So you sense that, I think.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ross. I really appreciate it.
It's a real great pleasure. Thank you very much. And I've been listening to your podcast. I really like it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
There just is nothing like love. Nothing stings like love.
I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Ross Lorraine.
Makes the whole heart sing.
What you're listening to now is Like Love, sung by the amazing Luca Manning. I'm so pleased that alongside the conversation with Ross, I've been able to play you three of my favourite UK singers right now. Obviously Ian Shaw and Claire Martin at the beginning, and now Luca Manning on this track, Like Love. Thank you for listening to this episode of Harmonious World. Please do like, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to share it with as many people as you like. Thank you for joining me once more, and enjoy listening to the rest of Like Love, one of my favourite tracks from Ross Lorraine's album, Heart of Mine.
There just is nothing, nothing like love. Nothing makes you fall, and nothing keeps you standing tall. Nothing sounds like love. Nothing sweetens every hour with our desire. Nothing's prouder, nothing shames. Nothing burns us out or fans the flame like love, like love, like love. There is nothing like
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.